Welcome back, dear friends. Another day. Things are looking up after the great success of finding that Peppa Pig's drawing thing, so I can actually make a scribulator. I think I'm going to order several of them. So that's great. And at this very day, we've got lots to get on with. Let me show you. The dear old laser cutter is cutting out 40 of the 2mm thick, that's 2mm of your very best thickness gears for another 40 nebnets, because I've run out again. Can't believe that I only made 40 in late November last year. So popular, it's thrilling, so exciting. Don't worry, Victoria, your time will come. In front of Victoria there's lots and lots of other bits and pieces that I've been cutting out in preparation for the next 40 nebnets. And then of course there's the completed climatic revelator, which hasn't got a proper pipe on it yet because I'm waiting to decide how the customer is going to link these together, because he's got 3 different machines that he wants to link. But that's finished. This is finished. He's a Barometric Prognosticator 3, except I haven't been able to find anywhere to get one of the wireless weather monitor sensor things. Something I continue to pursue. What a joy. And here are bits and pieces, exciting engravings and other bits and pieces cut out, ready for making the Chronological Engine. I've remembered the name. I'm making 2 of them because I've had 2 orders, which is nice. I've got all the parts, the salient electronical parts, fixed to the bit that goes on the back of the clock face. Clock face is that plastic thing there, and I'm about to start wiring them up. And I love doing this because you turn all this spaghetti and craziness into a lovely neat a pattern where all the wires go where they're meant to. And I always like starting with all the grounds, so I'll connect all the grounds to a spot on here, and I've got my destructions so I know where all the connections are going. Let's do a before and after. Here's before to this. How lovely. So all the wires now go somewhere. Even the alarm on indicator goes off to its little LED. Right, now then, time to make the control knob valve thing. Here are 2 standard 15mm gate valves. I've unscrewed the gates and thrown them away because they're covered in grease and they're horrible and we don't need them. What we do need is to somehow, inside this body of the valve, we need to get one of those. A little encoder, sweet little thing. And that will tell the Arduino which direction the handle, the knob, is turned in and by how many steps. So now it's cut off this bit, because obviously as this gate is forced shut it needs something to push against that way, so it needs some sort of retainer. And now this comes out, so now get the other one done and I can turn this bit down to 4 or whatever it is. Lovely. This is what I'm talking about. There's the encoder mounted with the 3 wires, ground in the middle, and then purple and orange for want of something different better. There's the turn down bit, that goes in there, and now this will all fit inside here and held together with that. You get it all together. This is very, very exciting. I've got it all together. I've made a few adjustments. As I say, every time I build one of these machines, complicated ones, I find new improvements. So there's the back of it with the mega and all the stepper motors and everything, and there's the front, and it's all assembled. You can just about see under there the row of 6 LEDs to illuminate the dial. That's lovely, and it's so satisfying when you put something like this together and it all lines up. There's the hole for the hour hand, and that just fitted through the middle of that disc perfectly. And another top tip, here's the hour hand, and they both screw on and tighten, which is fantastic, because it means once I load the sketch onto the Mega and switch it on, the stepper motors will move to their respective sensors with a bit of luck. So the hour hand will move round until that micro switch is pushed at 12 position, and the minute hand should move round until the read switch switches on, and I can adjust how much further that needs to go in. But the great thing about having them both loose is that I can get that set and then position these to C and move that so it does point to 12. And because it's loose, if it's going to go wrong or something, it doesn't jam it in and snap the hour hand off. So that's lovely, and that's the next thing to do. This is another exciting development, making the next 40 NEPNET throb wells. In the past I've used multi-strand or multi-chord wires. Last time, as I was obviously, these yellow and blue ones are just for the flickering LED indicator, and I was sitting there bearing back, winding round and tinning 80 of these, in fact 160 to get both ends done, thinking there has got to be a better way, because obviously if you just bear this back and it's multi-core, there's loads of strands and you can't then poke them into the hole in the breadboard. And I thought, hang on a minute, dispense with multi-core wire and just get a single core. All my costs have gone up. Every component that I buy of the, I think it's 160 for the NEPNET throttle, everything has gone up. So rather than putting the price up, which obviously causes inflation, and is just, I really don't like to see how, especially grocery stores and things like that, are just bunging the price up. No good reason other than they can make more profit, and obviously the energy companies. So I don't want to do that. What I'm doing with all my projects, as I have to make more of them, is find simpler or better or more efficient ways to put the kits together. So that's lovely. Why I didn't think of it sooner, I have absolutely no idea. Oh, and obviously I check each one. Isn't that nice? I don't know whether you can see that. They just look so lovely with a little candle thing stuck on top of the LED, flickering. Absolutely beautiful. And that tells you whilst or when your NEPNET throttle is actually timing. God, I hate it. Just plucking up the courage, wired all the sensors and motors and bits and pieces up to the back of that. Just looking at the sketch and I get a message saying, oh no, sorry, you can't use your laptop. It's got to restart in 14 minutes or now. Save your work. Because important updates. And because I don't use this one plugged into the internet, because I've really got it in here, and the wireless thing broke years ago, and I don't need it, and it's never connected to anything. Why? Why on earth? It hasn't downloaded any updates. So I will find something else to do during the meanwhile, because once this thing starts going, because it's a few years old, once it starts updating, that's about 3 or 4 hours where you can't do anything, because the only time I do update it is when I think, oh, I've got a Zoom call coming up, let's do it in the extension and sit here and use the camera on the top of that, which I've never used. And I think, well, I better just update it before I connect to the internet. And then by the time it's updated, the Zoom call's long gone. I've had to use my wife's one. Ridiculous. And to add to that, the diesel saga continues. Even though it was parked on the road, I don't think I mentioned this, it was parked on the road because it is broken. I couldn't move it, waiting to get it towed somewhere. I spoke to the parking attendant, traffic warden, one day and said, please don't. He said, it's been here nearly all week. I said, well, I can't move it. I'm really sorry about that. Blah, blah, blah. Okay, never mind. I'm sure it'll be gone by the end of tomorrow. So, lunchtime the next day, he ticketed it. Isn't that lovely? Caring, sharing community. Does your head in. So the high pressure pump's now been replaced. The computer, it is so complicated. I'm never going to get a diesel again. Fabulous. 2 weeks later and the diesel is working. Oh, well done, Geoffrey. You really have worked wonders. A new high pressure pump and new glow plugs, and sitting there turning it over, spraying fluid. But finally it burst into life. I'm so pleased. Now, no one's asked me how to print and cut labels on the laser cutter, so I thought I'd tell you. Here's one of the originals that I've been using for all the previous NEPNET Throbel kits, little pots of glue. But as you can see, it was very, very close to the edge of where I want to cut, and it was a real pain because they would regularly cut in the wrong place. So what I've gone and done, which has worked really successfully, is I've made everything slightly smaller, still legible, still clear, but slightly smaller. I've printed them on the normal printer with a little registration mark at the top, and then I've lined it up and flashed the laser just to make sure it's in the right place. Tried it and it was, so I've now got a heavy ruler down here so I can keep doing them. Even the curved ones. It's an absolute joy just by making it a little bit smaller, reducing the text by sort of half a point so it would all fit well within the sort of bleed area, so to speak, or the opposite, clearance area, I don't know what you call it. But it's lovely because with the aid of a scalpel, a rounded ended scalpel, I can now peel off each of these and stick them on, which again is another enjoyable part of the project. Just take that away and it leaves you with all the lovely labels. Hey, thank you. Brilliant. It all works. It's finally started up, and I've just been writing some little test functions so I can check that things like the encoder work, and it was back to front. The stepper motors work, they were back to front. Don't ask me why. Haven't got a clue, and other bits and pieces, but look. Well, the excitement. I was filled with trepidation because I just can't imagine that this would work. But right down to the little real-time battery, what do you call it? Real-time clock. Oh, isn't that lovely? Let me show you. I'll switch it off. So there's no electrometrickery going to that now. And then we'll switch it on and see what it does. So, look. The lovely little flickery window while that's finding its datum point or starting point, which will be straight up. Look at that. Then the hour hand does the same. Then the beautiful logarithmic fading of the lamps takes place. Look at that. And then it moves to the right time, which is 15 minutes past 10, which is great. That's not quite pointing at 10 because it's a bit of slack in the motor, and if it's standing vertically as it would be on a wall, then it hangs right down to the little bell motor chiming to tell me that it's now working. I'm so pleased. Right, I'll go ahead and do the other one. This is the first time I've actually seen my own face. Let me look at the... Ooh! I've given up shaving. I'm just going to see what happens, actually. Be exciting. Right, let me show you what I've been getting on with. We do have mirrors in this house, but I don't know. It's not a conscious decision, but I just don't notice myself in them as I walk past. Look at this lovely jig. It's time to make drill holes for mounting brackets and pipe inlets and outlets. And I'd forgotten I'd made this last time. Lovely card jig where I put the 3mm acrylic parts in. Everything fits together. I've had to make a note to remind myself this is how you use it. Right? It's gorgeous, I tells you. There's even got a little piece of card with my V block. It allows me to mark the holes for the inlet pipe things. I've also, and I forgot to video it, made these. They're cut out of 10mm thick acrylic, and they are designed, as you can see, it's quite a complex curve. I made a lovely big spinning wheel out of MDF with abrasive paper around the outside with which to sand them, because they now fits perfectly on the side there. And I've threaded them. I bought a big tap. Here's a lovely big tap. It is actually, oh here we are, look. It's a 1/2 inch, well focus, it's a 1/2 inch something or other, because it's the right size for these standard plumbing fittings, at least in the UK, the imperial ones. And it's a joy, because look at that. It screws into there. Beautiful. How lovely. So what I'm going to do is to mark and drill the holes, get these fixed on, 2 of them, screw those little brackets on, and then spray the whole lot up. Now these holes are fine to use a normal twist drill, but with these larger ones, 20mm diameter, I'm going to use one of these hole saws, which is great because it doesn't suddenly snatch thin sheet steel like this block face. Look at that. As long as you don't mind burning hot swoof sprayed all over your hands, it's great. A lovely clean hole. Look at that, dear friends. Oh, it's so exciting getting it all together, getting the little gem stuck in the middle. Now I've sorted out getting the hands coordinated or calibrated, and then hoovering it religiously, hoovering inside, cleaning the glass, hoovering clean, hoover clean. It's amazing how little specks of dust and things suddenly appear. But fingers crossed, I've got them both together and there isn't any dust. And that's what's so lovely about these clock faces from IKEA. You know, it looks gorgeous when you've got all the bits painted and everything. But they make the perfect enclosure. Everything just sits perfectly, and there's those spring clips that hold all this in place and allow you to twist it when you get it in the wrong place, so to speak. We've got the threaded bits there and there for the pipes. That's a joy. And even better today, this arrived. The replacement, well, not a replacement, the Oregon Scientific thermohygro sensor, as we say in the trade, that I have been waiting months for, because Oregon have stopped making them. It's typical, isn't it? A lovely Arduino library that can decode them on one of those little 433 megahertz receivers. In fact, I'll show you. This is the back of the Barometric Prognosticator. That's the receiver. It's a titchy little thing, and there's the aerial. It's just a certain length. And that just has the power, 0 volts plus 5 volts, and the data output that then the Arduino library could read, but can no longer. And then this can display the exterior humidity and temperatures. Not much point in having them inside. The pressure reading is inside, but that's fine. So they're outside. And a very big thank you to EPI on YouTube for giving me lots and lots of support and help and encouragement regarding finding an alternative way of doing this. I haven't had time yet because I've got so many other things I'm getting on with, but I've got to work out a way basically now that Oregon have stopped making all of their sensors. How exciting! And this too is really exciting. I've got 10 of these huge Peppa Pig scribblers, so I can now, I've got the resources to make 10 more of the Gregorian Scribulator. That's right. I just thought it's worth getting them. They're selling them off because it's the end, you know, they're not selling these anymore. I don't know why, it's a pain in the backside, but I've got 10 of them at a good price, which is fantastic. The lounge here is in a right old shambles because all these boxes and packaging and everything has arrived, and I'm so busy and I just haven't got room for it all, so I'll slowly sort things out. The only downside with the scribblers, magnetic scribblers, was the only place I could get them was Argos, and the only Argos that had them was 100 yards within the current ULEZ zone, just inside the North Circular. 100 yards. No public transport, obviously, despite what the Mayor of London, the idiot, says. No public transport, no other way of getting there, nowhere to park a car and walk, nothing, because it's a retail park that's just served by cars. So I've had to pay £12.50 to drive 150 yards or 100 yards into the ULEZ zone and back out again. It just, I mean, one day I'll have a huge long rant about it. I haven't mentioned it, I don't think. But the ULEZ, planned ULEZ expansion to cover the whole of the London area within the M25, don't get me started. Needless to say, the lovely diesel that I've spent a fortune transporting to London and just fixing won't be compliant. So my wife won't be able to get to work because there isn't any public transport. So I'm going to have to buy a new car, or she's going to have to pay £12.50 a day for the right to teach in a secondary state school. I will say no more, otherwise I'm going to wind myself up into a frenzy. Let's get on with this now. Shiny and exciting parts. Have you ever wondered what 1,000 capacitors look like? I'll show you. They look like that. I'm so sick of trying to source the right size capacitors for the net circuits and other bits and pieces. I went to RS and they are very good value for capacitors. You just have to shop around with RS. Some things are very expensive and others aren't. And it was cheapest just to buy 1,000 of them. 100 microfarad, 16 volt, 5 millimeters by 11. That's the important thing. How fantastic. It's all so exciting. Things, look, copper things. I've got even more copper things. I've got everything sprayed up. I've got other bits engraved. I've got plumbing fittings. I've got 2 clocks. I've got really small little 8mm plumbing fittings all done. I've got a control lever ready assembled. And I've even got a jig, a new jig, made of the cutouts for these 2 bits, because I need to glue them together very precisely. Thank you. But I think that's enough for another video. I'm pretty sure it is anyway. They're a bit few and far between at the moment because I'm so busy. Thanks very much for watching if you still are. I hope you've enjoyed it. It's been useful, interesting, possibly even inspiring. I hope to see you next time. As always, if you've got any questions or queries, please leave them in the comments. Thanks again to EPI for all the support regarding the wireless thing. I'm so pleased that's working. I can't tell you, although I just have. Hope to see you next time. Bye.